Genesis 1:31, look at this, underline this. It says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was what? It was very good. God's own description of his creation was that it was very good. There was no sin. There was nothing that was destroying anything. There was no dysfunction. God said, this is very good. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. God, when his first creation was created, it was very good. He had grace upon it. Many of us that our kids have like, I want a hamster. And you're like, oh gosh, we're not getting a hamster. But Dad, I want a hamster. We're not getting a hamster. They smell, they're fat and fuzzy, and you got to feed them, and they go like this all the time. We're not getting a hamster. But Dad, okay, let's go get a hamster. And you go down to the pet store, and you know what? You buy a hamster, the thing that you hate, the rodent that you usually pay an exterminator to get rid of. Now you're buying a habitat for this thing in your home. You know what's funny is you go in there and you go to this little fuzzy Edie thing or whatever, and you realize as a parent, and you got your 3, 4, 5-year-old kid with you, you realize that when you get this little rodent thing, it's not going to be your 5-year-old that's going to take care of it. You're like, Dad, I'm going to take care of it every day. I'm going to take my hamster for a walk. We're going to walk around the block. I'm going to pet him, make sure he's loved. He's going to snuggle with me at night. Those of us that have ever bought something like that for our kids, we know that that's going to last for about 14 seconds, and then it's all going to be on mom and dad to take care of rodent, super rodent that runs around your home. The funny thing is when you go down to a pet store and you buy whatever you're going to bring home, you buy something for it, right? You buy, it's funny because it's kind of like buying a car, but in the micro version, because you're like, I know it's going to cost me $4,000 to get extra to get air conditioning, but man, it'd be sure nice to have air conditioning. And then the salesman kind of like ups and ups and ups, and by the time, you went to go buy a little 2-door hatchback, you're driving out in an E-Class Mercedes for $5,000 a month, because you're like, I guess I need this. Same thing when you go to the pet store, you're like, it's a rodent. It lives in like marshes and dumps, and it like eats out of like sardine cans. And you go and you have to buy it this plexiglass castle of love. And you know what? You start filling this little thing. You put in a little wheel for it so it can get exercise. We don't want a fat rodent. And you buy all this stuff like, Super Seed and like Red Bull for, rodents and stuff. You're buying all of this like exotic things. It's a rodent. It's designed to live in like landfills. You know the funny thing about God in Genesis 1:31 is he could have created this earth like a landfill that we just had to deal with. Instead, God creates this immaculate earth where we still are amazed by our own earth. And we've been here for thousands of years. We've discovered about 2% of what's in the ocean. We're like worried about other planets. We can't even figure out our own planet. We go to the bottom of the ocean going, there's nothing going to be here, too deep. Turn the lights on like, all those things, floating around at the bottom of the ocean. You're like, wow, we're amazed by our own planet still to this day. God has had so much grace on us, things that he has built, that he's given us, that we're just amazed by. And watch this. You want to know what one of the greatest examples of grace is in your life? Is that you are able to appreciate beauty. God did not have to give you that ability. When you look outside, you see a beautiful sunset. Where does beauty even come from? Where does that concept even enter your mind? It comes because God has put it inside of you, that you're able to appreciate and love beauty. The only reason you feel pleasure in this world is because God gives you the grace to feel pleasure. Like after a good meal and you're like, oh, that feeling, that kind of like after Thanksgiving, I'm about ready to go into a coma feeling, that's all from God. It's that feeling of satisfaction and enjoyment and pleasure. That's a grace of God. Don't think you came up with your own pleasure. Don't think like, oh, I better, you signed in for pleasure when you were born. You're like, I better be a pleasure kind of loving person. God put that inside of you because he loves you. And he wants you to love what he built for you. Everything in life is grace-filled for you and me. God builds everything just for you to enjoy. Just for you to enjoy. Isn't that amazing? You have eyes that can see color. And fingertips that can enjoy playing sports or knitting dog sweaters or whatever you enjoy doing. You can do whatever you want. It's God's world and he lets you enjoy it. That's grace. You didn't earn that. I want you to see that right at the beginning, God had grace on us. We've done nothing to earn the pleasure that God gives us in this world.